come up. Give Sam a welcome. I won't say it again, Sam, but I'll just tell them what I did say at the first service.
Yeah.
I was very thankful that there's finally someone on stage shorter than me.
Sure.
But I'm not going to say that.
But you just did. And I'll say what I said in the first service. Don't you love how in this service you always get made to feel like this is the second service? Because back in the first service, you so should have been here. But actually, no, you're realising the first service, we got everything wrong. We didn't have the Q&A up. And so that was our practice swing.
That's
service.
Right.
We got our eye in. I work as a doctor, like as a surgical assistant. Usually we have a case, a day where we get like 4 knee replacements to do. We always joke, like the first one, we're just getting our eye in. Like you wouldn't want to be the first patient. You wouldn't want to be the fourth one either, like because we're over it by then. Like our brain's already thinking the weekend.
So next time you're
in
hospital,
don't be on a Friday afternoon when we're working.
So when you're in hospital and you're waiting all day for that operation, you should be thankful that you're not the first one in the morning.
That's right.
Okay,
yeah.
That's good.
Practice swing.
Sam, we're in this series, work-life balance with a dot. Got to remember the dots. And we've been thinking about what is work life, what does it look like to have balance in our life with work and life and all the different things, leisure we even talked about last week. This week it's sort of taking sort of a step back, but not really, because as part of our lives, we want to be people that are on about the gospel, on about inviting other people into this life and this joy and this peace that we've found in the gospel in Jesus Christ. And so we've invited you in to speak on that today. Before you do that, just so everyone gets to know you who doesn't know you, got a scenario for you. The scenario is you have been invited to speak at a conference in America about evangelism and mission, and you get on a plane on your way there, and you'd be a hypocrite if you didn't, but the person, you just want to put the headphones on and tune out for the trip, but the person sits down next to you and they're keen, they're 14-hour trip, I want to talk the whole way, and you're like, I don't want to do this, but I feel like I should because I'm going to talk about evangelism. How do you engage them in a conversation that has any sort of meaning and just not about sport and the weather and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so this actually happens to me all the time. And just 2 years ago, I was on a plane flying back and forth in America.
Remember those things we used to be able to do?
Yeah, that's right. And you're always stuck next to someone and they don't want to talk to you, you don't want to talk to them. So you both actually don't want to talk to each other. And the plane is loud. Like that's why you hear, so you actually have to shout to have a conversation with a stranger. But this happens to me all the time. And even I, in some sort of semi-professional Christian ministry, feel awkward talking about Jesus. So the conversations used to go, what do you do for work? What do you do for work? I used to say, I give talks. And they go, what do you mean talks? And I would say motivational talks. And they go, what do you mean motivational talks? Well, actually, they're religious talks. Well, which religion? Okay, they're Christian. And I just realised, you know what? It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. It's easier. I just say it right from the start. I give talks about Jesus from the Bible. There you go. Done. And it happens to me all the time.
Go back
I try to avoid it. Like the headphones are the international symbol for do not talk to me. And I had them on. I thought I was safe. And then the flight attendant comes, serves you drink and snacks, and being a good Asian, I'd already brought my own snacks. I wouldn't have to pay money for the snacks. And then I open it, and I realize, it would be rude if I didn't offer my snacks to the person next to me. And sure enough, in that moment, where are you going? Why are you going? Oh, no, it's happened. So I give talks about Jesus from the Bible. And what I say next, well, you're going to have to wait to hear in the talk.
Like that. Well, I'm going to hand over to you, Sam, for this seminar.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so thanks again for having me here. Today we're going to talk on this, how to talk about Jesus without becoming that guy. And I'm going to share some tips that have worked for me. I hope they work for you. I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes, and then we'll do that Q&A time properly this time. All right, so tip number 1, how to talk about Jesus without becoming that guy. Tip number 1, we need to merge our universes. We need to merge our universes of friends. What do I mean by this? Well, typically as Christians, we have 2 universes of friends. If we want to talk about Jesus, we need to merge our universes. Because I want you to imagine if I said this now. Oh, you won't believe this, but last night my wife and I were kicking back watching TV and this UFO landed in our backyard. A little green man got out, asked us into the UFO, so my wife and I went in, he took us to his home planet Jupiter. We got out, he showed us around, we had a meal with his friends and family. We jumped back into the UFO, and because of the time portal thing, we arrived back home and only 1 second of Earth time had gone by. Who here believes me? All right, it's a minority view. Let's try another story. 2,000 years ago, God sent us his son, because God is Trinity, 3 in 1, but one God, sent us his son, Jesus, born of a virgin, 100% God, 100% human at the same time. While he was alive, he raised a dead girl back to life, gave a blind person their sight. More than that, he died on a cross. More than that, if you believe this, God will take away all your sin, guilt, and shame. More than that, Jesus rose from the grave 3 days later. Oh, but he's in heaven right now. So if you believe that, his spirit will live in you. And depending on which denomination you belong to, one day in the future, he's going to come back again and set up a physical kingdom on earth. And when that happens, your body will rise from its grave and be reunited with your soul. Who here believes me? Whoa, it's a majority view. But now you're thinking, why am I happy to believe the Jesus story but not the Jupiter story? Because let's face it, as I was telling you the Jesus story, even I was finding it hard to believe. And let's face it, the Jupiter story is way more believable than the Jesus story. So why do we believe the Jesus story but not the Jupiter story? Because of what philosophers, sociologists, anthropologists, psychologists call plausibility structures. So as I'm telling you my story and you're listening to my story, you have these pre-programmed, predetermined plausibility structures that prejudge my story as believable or unbelievable. So as I tell you the Jupiter story, your pre-programmed, predetermined plausibility structures are red lighting. Everything. When I say UFO landed in our backyard last night, you go, unbelievable. We went to Jupiter, unbelievable. Time portal, unbelievable. Your plausibility structures are just red lighting everything. But as I tell you the Jesus story, your pre-programmed, predetermined plausibility structures are bling, green lighting everything. Jesus, Son of God, bling, believable. Born of a virgin, bling, believable. Rose from the dead, bling, 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 believable, believable, believable. Now I think, whoa, where do I get these plausibility structures from that prejudge a story as believable or unbelievable? Well, we get them from three main sources. We get them from our community, friends and family that we know, love and trust. We get them from our own personal experiences. And we get them from facts, evidence, and data. Because as I tell you the Jupiter story, most of us here don't belong in a community that believes in UFOs. Most of us haven't had a personal experience of UFOs. Most of us believe there are no facts, evidence, or data to support that story. But as I tell you the Jesus story, most of us here have friends and family who also believe the Jesus story. Most of us have had a personal experience of Jesus in our life. And most of us believe there are enough facts, evidence, and data to support this story. Now, out of these three, we might wish that facts, evidence, and data are the most important, but they're the least important in determining belief. Whether we like it or not, it's community. Community determines how we interpret our experiences. Community determines how we interpret facts, evidence, and data. Because if I said to you, I live in Croydon Park, just a 30-minute drive from here, the UFO is still in my backyard right now. There might be some Sydney traffic, but who here could be bothered to come to my backyard to see the UFO? Oh, 1, 2 people. The rest of you could not be bothered to check out the facts, evidence, and data. And even if you did come, you would explain it away. Listen, there must be some other explanation. Even though you can see it and touch it, this is an elaborate hoax. We explain away the evidence. Community is the most powerful thing in determining belief. Because in this room, and we're a room full of Bible-believing, God-fearing, church-attending Christians, who here believes that women have a right to vote? Whoa, I guess a majority of you, all right? 100 years ago in this same room, most of us would not have believed that women had a right to vote. Who here, there's a room full of God-fearing, Bible-believing, church-attending Christians, who here believes that the government should pay for health and education? All right, there should be a safety net. Oh, majority of you. Who here thinks that motorcyclists, it should be compulsory for them to wear a helmet? Oh, okay, majority of you. Who here thinks we have a God-given right to pack heat, to bear arms? As you turn up to church today, you should be allowed to bring a rifle, a gun, or a semi-automatic weapon just to protect you and your family. Oh, a minority of you. The rest of well, it's a concealed weapon. I'm not going to tell anyone, all right? Now, imagine if we were in Texas, USA. Same room full of God-fearing, church-attending, Bible-believing Christians. We wouldn't believe in the government having to pay for health and education. It's my money. Why should I fund someone else who's lazy? We believe motorcyclists shouldn't have to wear a helmet. It's their head. They get to do what they want with it. They have an accident, at least I'm not paying for their bills. And we would have believed we had a God-given right to pack heat as we turn up here. So it's community that determines belief. When my wife and I were expecting our second child, it took us forever to work out what to name this child, because every parent is playing that game. We don't want to give the child a name like Peter, John, or Paul, because that's boring, it's common. But we don't want a weird name like a Matthew with 3 T's and a silent Q. All right, we want that Goldilocks name, not too common, not too weird, just right. So everyone thinks, oh, how amazing are the parents, hey? What a cool, hip, trendy name that is. So we thought, oh, okay, not this, not that. Cooper. We'll name our kid Cooper. That year, Cooper was a top 10 name in New South Wales. We're sheep, whether we know or not. We believe what our community believes, we think like our community, and we behave like our community. And community determines how we interpret experiences and interpret facts, evidence, and data. I want you to imagine, as I tell you the Jupiter story, I'm unbelievable. Because in this room, I'm the one bozo who believes in that story. But I want you to imagine, as I tell you the Jupiter story, this half the room goes, oh my goodness, that also happened to me last night. I too jumped into a UFO. I too was in Jupiter. I thought that was you I saw. I just wasn't sure, so I didn't wave. Now, how's this half of the room feeling? You're thinking, this is way more believable. We got half the people I know and trust also believe this story. I want you to imagine now, as I tell you this story, the whole room saying, oh, me too. We too won a UFO. We too went to Jupiter. And you're the one bozo who doesn't believe it. Now it's way more believable. That's why Paul says, hey, I saw Christ risen from the dead. Not just me, but the apostles. Oh, not just them, but 500 people that you know, love, and trust. Now it's more believable. We're not talking about the truth status of the story. Christ is risen, whether you believe it or not. But it's more believable if more people in your community also believe it. So typically when we think evangelism, we're thinking, oh, okay, this is it. Evangelism, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go out solo. By myself. I'm going to sign up for a cooking club, a football team. I'm going to tell everyone in the room about Jesus. And we can do that, but we're the one bozo in the room who believes in the story. So it's a true story, just a little bit unbelievable. So what we need to do as Christians is to merge our universes of friends, to get our Christian friends to become friends with our non-Christian friends, so that we're not the one and only bozo who also believes the story. Half their friends now will believe the story. And so typically as Christians, we have 2 universes of friends. The Christian universe, so when they go to a barbecue, we go with them. The non-Christian universe, so when they go to the movies, we go with them. But we can merge our universes. So when our Christian friends go have a barbecue, invite our non-Christian friends. When our non-Christian friends go to the movies, invite our Christian friends along, and bit by bit merge our universes. And it takes 2 years to form a new network of friends. So what we're talking about here is a lifestyle change. Evangelism is a lifestyle change. It's like fitness. Every year, every New Year's, we make the same resolution. This year, for sure, I'm going to eat less, drink less, and exercise more. And we do it. We sign up for a gym. We get up for a run at 5 a.m, but it's unsustainable because fitness became this one extra event that we try to shoehorn, add to our life, when we know fitness is a lifestyle change. Fitness is what you are. It's how you live. And evangelism isn't an event that we shoehorn and add to our life. It's what we become. Our lifestyle becomes evangelistic because we merge our universes of friends. When I was a junior doctor, I lived in hospital accommodation with 3 non-Christian doctors. But because they had to live with me, every time my Christian friends from church visited, we'd go out together, invite them along. Every time my non-Christian friends went out somewhere, I invited my church friends along. Bit by bit, after 2 years, we merged our universes of friends. And after 2 years, my doctor friends started to come to church. After 2 years, all 3 gave their lives to Christ because they had entered a community of believers. Someone pointed out to me, in Paul in 1 Thessalonians, where he talks about how he evangelized the Thessalonians, he says, remember how I lived among you? No. Nathan Campbell pointed out to me, he says, remember how we lived among you. It's a communal activity. It's a lifestyle change. So what my wife and I like to do is we like to matchmake our non-Christian friends with Christian friends. It's like what used to happen to me when I was single. Like you say yes to a dinner party, you turn up and think, it's happened again. How did I not see this coming? There's a married couple, there's a married couple, there's a married couple. There's a single girl all by herself, and look, they've sat me right next to her. They're trying to match me up. And my wife and I thought, why don't we do that with our non-Christian friends? Not romantically, but socially. Like, this group would get on really well with this group. Let's just put something on where they can meet each other and just become friends with each other. My wife and I also, we're in a stage of life where we've got heaps of non-Christian friends, but what we've noticed is that almost all of them have only moved into Sydney in the last 2 or 5 years because we all live these transient mobile lifestyles now where no one has a network of friends. So it's become really easy for us to enter and become their network of friends. Studies are showing that, as humans, we need a tribe of 150 people, we need a circle of friends of 30, and we need a trusted network of 3 to 5 friends. They're the people you ask for an emergency favour or a lift to the hospital. Most Australians, 60 to 80% of Australians, don't have the tribe, they don't have the 30 friends, and they don't have that trust network of 3 to 5. So it's become really easy for us to be Jesus, to be loving, and to be the friends that they need and want. So that's tip number 1, merge our universes. Get our Christian friends to become friends with our non-Christian friends. Second tip is this. Go to their things and they will come to your things. I often get invited to speak at evangelistic events, and one of these guys who organises it, his name is Andrew. And normally when we turn up to these events, almost every Christian hasn't been able to bring a friend along. And I get it, it's really hard. But somehow Andrew always is surrounded by 5 non-Christian friends, different ones every time, and they're happy to be there. So I go to Andrew's wife, Jackie, what is going on? How come every time I come, Andrew's got friends, different friends, and they're happy to be here? And Jackie says, it's because we're always going to their things. They're happy to come to one of our things. We're always hanging together anyway. This is one of many things we would be doing anyway. Because you know how it works. Your church will put on some evangelistic event, a men's evangelistic breakfast, barbecue, and they say, okay, men, be brave now, invite your work friends. And you think, okay, how am I going to do this? Okay, I'm going to do it. Today's the day. I'm going to invite my friends to this breakfast thing. And your friends are thinking the same thing. Oh no, here he comes. You know, you know what he's going to do? He's going to invite us to one of those evangelistic breakfast things. See, since when do men do breakfast together anyway? And now this is a church thing, and it's an evangelistic thing with a Bible talk. Like, how awkward. But if you're always going to their things anyway, this will be one of many things you do together anyway. So my wife and I, we've just made it a priority. We just go. No matter what we get invited to, we go. Fundraiser, concert nights, Tupperware parties, school fates, trivia nights, we go. And by going, they come to our things. There was one night, I remember Christmas Eve a few years ago, a whole bunch of people from our street were off to the local Catholic church for midnight mass. And I said, can I come along? And they said, okay, because we all carpooled. So I went, and on the way back, they said to me, what do you do for Christmas? And I said, funny you should ask. I'm the guy that gives the Christmas talk at the local Chinese church. Would you like to come? And they said, yes, because I'd gone to one of their things, they were happy to come to one of my things. I put my kids in local Saturday sport because I thought, Saturday sport, I've got 3 young kids. Oh, it'll be like childcare in disguise. I just dump them off and I can sit in a car and read the paper and drink my coffee. But no, Saturday sports has changed. Now it's all about parental involvement. You don't dump your kid off. They want you, to be, there's an umpire roster, there's a barbecue roster, there's a running the water roster. What is going on? But I talked to my work colleague at City Bible Forum, Russell Matthews, and he just navigated the whole Saturday sport thing with his son. And he said, no, don't fight it. It's like a rip. Embrace it and let it take you. Because by going to their things, by being on their rosters, you have become the de facto chaplain on the sideline. They will come to you and they will start coming to your things. So I've repented. I've put my wife now on the barbecue roster, the umpire roster and running the water roster. And you're saying, but I still haven't talked about Jesus. It's okay. Break it down at little baby steps. It's like when you come home and the dishes, there's a mountain of dishes in the sink. It's too big. It's too global. It's too overwhelming. How do I do this? And my wife says, it's okay. Chill. Break it down to bite-sized, concrete, achievable steps. Here, begin with a fork. Now here's a cup. And bit by bit, the dishes are done. It's like, how do I tell my friends about Jesus? It's too big. It's too global. It's too overwhelming. It's okay. Break it down into baby steps. And the baby steps are coffee, dinner, gospel. How can I invite them to coffee? Because coffee is an easy invitation. It's public space. You're only going to talk about the weather, the weekend, and the sport. And it's a low investment of time, 10 or 20 minutes. And if you've done that once or twice and you've earned enough social capital and trust, you can invite them to a meal, lunch or dinner. Dinner is private space, bigger invitation of time, investment of time, 1 or 2 hours, but the nature of conversation changes in private space. Because my chaplain friends explained to me there are 3 layers of conversations. Outside layer, we talk about values, and in the core central layer, we talk about worldviews. Typically, we always talk about interests, the weather, the weekend, the sport, because it's safe conversation. Because you can say, how blue was the sky on the weekend? And they'll go, yeah, how blue was the sky? It's not going to start an argument. They're going to go, no, it wasn't blue. What did you do on the weekend? We had a picnic. No, you didn't. So it's safe conversation. But this is where you earn social capital, social trust, and bit by bit, you might have conversations about values and worldviews. My chaplain friends say what they do is once they feel safe, heard, and understood, they will invite you into the next layer. We just got to hear the invitation, and they'll give you 3 chances. If you miss out, they realise, he only wants to talk about the weather, the weekend, the sport. So you just talk about, how blue was the sky again. But so there was one time I was at a dinner. My friend just dropped in the conversation, my mother died earlier this year, and I missed it. Lady said, my mother died earlier this year, and I missed it. And then lady said, my mother died earlier this year, and I missed it. On the way home, my wife said to me, do you think you want to talk about his mother dying earlier this year? All I just do was say, how do you feel? And give him permission to now start talking about values and worldviews. Or we can invite ourselves into the layers simply by saying, hey, what did you do on the weekend? I played basketball. What do you like about basketball? It keeps me healthy. That's a value statement. What is about health you like? You only live once. You got to look after yourself. So that's a worldview conversation. So it's actually the art of hospitality, creative ways to do hospitality. Human beings are weird. We don't like talking about values and worldview, but once there's food, suddenly you realise it's not about the food, really. It could be Pizza Hut food or tapas or whatever. Food gives us permission to talk. And Jesus was always going to things and always eating, and that's how these conversations were happening. So we have many universes of non-Christian friends. We have the after-school swimming lessons universe. We have the Saturday sport universe. And we have the daycare playtime universe. the after-school swimming universe doesn't work because it's loud, it's public, so you can't really talk. The Saturday sport one is sort of okay, but again, it's loud, it's public. But the daycare, whatever one, the playtime one at church, it begins at 10 o'clock. Then the adults sit down. Oh, now they can have coffee. Oh, how blue was the sky on the weekend? Yeah, the sky was very blue. But afterwards, my wife said, hey, come back to our place and let's do some lunch. So now you're doing private space and these conversations happen. And then I come home, they're still there. Hey, let's do dinner. And that's how the worldview gospel opportunities will arise. And you're saying, but I still haven't talked about Jesus. And that's because the next step is simply to listen, to hear them, to understand, and to feel the emotions behind what they're saying. So I've chaplain, counsellor friends, and they say, yeah, there's three sorts of listening. When someone talks, there's three ways to listen. First way is to listen and to wait for your turn to talk. Nah, that's not listening. Second one is listen, waiting for your turn to tell them why they're wrong. Okay, that's not listening. The third one is where you genuinely listen and you hear, understand, and feel them. My counsellor friend says all he does is every time the person stops talking, you just get your cup and start drinking. And that shows, buddy, I'm not doing any talking. You need to keep talking. And I thought, I remember when my counsellor used to do that to me. And I used to think, I so know what you're doing. But I couldn't help it. I couldn't stop talking. This little voice in my head was saying, stop talking. You're giving her way too much information. Now she knows you're crazy. But I would just keep talking. And you're just trying to hear, understand, and feel what this person is saying. Guys, it's everything you were taught in premarital classes, remember? Conflict resolution. Do you remember that? So when your wife says, you're not doing the dishes, easy. You just repeat her words back to her to show you heard. From what I hear you saying, I'm not doing the dishes. And then you summarize her words in your words to show you're not just parroting her words, but you're performing some sort of high analytical thought, all right? So you say, I understand I'm not doing my share of the housework. Oh, that must make you feel blank. And you just got to guess an emotion. But it's always going to be anger. Oh, that must make you feel so angry. And tick, just like that, conflict resolved. And my wife caught me giving this advice to my guy friends. And she said, if I ever catch you doing that to me. And I said, from what I hear you saying. So what happens to me all the time is at parties, on planes and trains and Uber rides, it's, hi, what do you do for work? I'm an engineer, because that's safe conversation. I'm not going to say, no, you're not. But then they reciprocate, well, what do you do for work? Okay, rip it off like a Band-Aid. I work for City Bible Forum. I'm in professional Christian ministry. I tell people about Jesus from the Bible. Awkward. So now we think, okay, it's a game of blink, dare, chicken. Who's going to crack first? How blue was the sky on the weekend? Yeah, how blue was the sky? Because we went into worldviews way before already. So now we bring it back to inches. But now I realise, no, all I have to do, we came here way too early, but we're in sacred spiritual space. Give us permission to stay here. And I do that simply by asking a question, do you have a faith? And some of my friends have got an even better question. Their one is, what religion did your parents raise you with? Because that's still spiritual, sacred conversation. It's very safe. It's descriptive rather than prescriptive. And then whatever they say, I see them now as a person in the image of God. They're the most special, important person in the universe in front of me. So when they say, I'm a Buddhist, I go, wow, tell me more. Like, were you always a Buddhist? How do you worship in the temple? What do you pray for? If they're an atheist, I go, wow, tell me more. Were you always an atheist? James Veltmeyer, my counsellor friend, his question is, what is the best thing about being a Buddhist? What is the best thing about being a Muslim? What is the best thing about being an atheist? And hear, understand, and feel them. And if they feel understood and empathise with, then they might reciprocate. So there was one time I was on a plane, Sydney to Adelaide. What do you do for work? What do you do for work? And then, okay, I give talks about Jesus from the Bible. Silence. I thought, okay, I'll be a hypocrite if I don't do this. So I asked him, well, do you have a faith? And he said, well, when I was a teenager in South Africa, I checked out Christianity, and that's when I found out it was a front for hate crimes against gay people. And I went, wow, tell me more. And I let him talk and talk and talk. Now, if I ask you what you did on the weekend, and I let you go for 1 minute, social convention is you need to reciprocate and ask me what I did on the weekend and give me 1 minute. But if I give you 10 minutes, you should give me 10 minutes. And so I let this guy monologue for 60, 90 minutes. At the end, long pause. I said, okay, from what I hear you saying, I understand how for you this is a human rights issue that must make you feel very angry and frustrated at Christians. Have I heard you correctly? And he said, yes. Silence. Then I said, would you like me to respond? And he said, yes. And because I let him monologue, he let me monologue until the plane landed. And he said, thank you so much. You made that flight go so quickly. And I thought, whoa, not for me. That didn't. So when it's our turn to talk, we can tell a better story. And I'm getting this title from Glenn Harrison's book, Telling a Better Story. Josh Chatraw has also put out a book called Telling a Better Story. And it's a whole idea that the gospel is the better story. Whatever story our friend has right now, we have the better story. The gospel is more imaginable, more wise, more beautiful, more livable than the story they have right now. And this is how it works. If you go to, like pre-COVID, maybe it's the same now, but if you go to any university on an Australian campus, the first thing you notice is, there are Asians everywhere. There are more Asians here than Asia. How does this work? And then you go to a Christian group on campus and it's only Asians. Whoa, how? And you're the only white person there. What is going on? Because the gospel is a better story for Asians. If you're an Asian and you found Jesus, you realize, oh, I'm so glad I found Jesus because there's a freedom here. I've been set free from the fears, the superstitions, the status anxiety, the endless need to succeed that I used to have. Jesus set me free. Jesus is a freedom story for Asians. Whereas for Westerners, the gospel represents the worst story. Now you can't sleep in on a Sunday. You need to listen to priests and authority figures. They got outdated views on sex and morality. That sounds like a worse story. But there are many dimensions in the gospel we can explore to show people we have the better story. So Julianne Laird works with Campus Ministries, AFES in Melbourne, where she used to. And I asked her, how's campus ministry going right now? She says, oh, it's amazing. So many people are becoming Christians. And I said, are they Asians? Because it doesn't count if they're Asians. And she said, no, these were white people. I go, oh, all right, so real converts. And she goes, yeah. I said, so what do you think is going on? She said, it's purpose. People come to campus and they have no purpose. They have freedom from, now suddenly they're free from parents, free from teachers, but they don't know what they're free for. They don't know why they're here. No purpose, no fulfillment, no peace, no shalom. We can show how we have the better, more beautiful, more livable, more wise story. And I could go on and on about that, but maybe we'll explore that more in question time. I'll just end with 2 resources you can chase down. I work with City Bible Forum, and we put out this year something called the Post-COVID Playbook, and it's all about how to evangelize in this post-COVID world. Series of very short videos, 2 to 3 minutes, and a downloadable PDF. So bit.ly/post-COVID playbook. And I've just put out a book called Talk About Jesus Without Becoming That Guy. And it only just came out this week. It's come from the United States, only just landed in Australia last week. In the first service, which was the practice swing service where we got everything wrong, I told everyone that Wandering Bookseller has run out, but I was so wrong. I just got a very angry text from Wandering Bookseller. No, they've got hundreds of these books. So go there now. They've just come in. It's a second shipment. The first shipment did sell out, but the second shipment now. So it's just come in. So everything I talk about today, but in much more detail, and 8 tips. I gave you 5 tips, but there are 8 tips in the book. Anyway, I'll close in prayer, and then we can segue into the Q&A afterwards. Heavenly Father, we do thank you that Jesus is the better story. Jesus is true, he's believable, and more than that, he gives us freedom, forgiveness, new birth, new start, peace, shalom, and Jesus really is the better story. And we thank you for all the friends that we have, and we pray that you will pour out your Spirit, and so that their eyes might be open and their hearts can also believe this better story about Jesus. We thank you for all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.